Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Remember to subscribe to the podcast. This is an interview special with football broadcaster and writer Sam Tighe. You'll find his work on ESPN and Rank FC's The Truth podcast. Today, we're going to look ahead at 2026 and deliver one or two hot takes, perhaps, and our thoughts on what Aston Villa can do this year. Sam, Happy New Year and welcome back to All Villa, No Filler. There's been some breaking news already today, and that is that 19-year-old forward Alysson has signed officially from Gremio. Any thoughts, info on him?
Happy New Year to you too, Frankie, and to all the listeners as well. I just had to turn my volume down a couple of notches as you launched into the podcast there. Very loud as usual.
I always deafen everyone at the start, yeah.
We did a couple of minutes chat before we went on, very normal level, and then bang, eardrums gone.
Yeah.
Start as you mean to carry on, my friend.
Yeah.
Yes, Alysson, I wish I could sit here and be like, right, guys, I've been watching spent the last 6 hours watching his tape, but I haven't. I've listened to those that have watched him talk about him, and probably fair to say that there is some surprise that he has moved on from Gremio so quickly. Tim Vickery was certainly a little bit surprised that this has happened so soon, but I can only imagine this is a market opportunity for Villa, who are trying just a little bit. Needs must, of course, with that. The only way to really genuinely get those wages down and get the transfer fees down is to buy younger and to take those kind of punts. But it is a bit of a risk, isn't it? Because Unai Emery does like experienced players. He thinks they're more consistent, they're more able to take on his instructions. And so Morgan Rogers is more of the outlier than the standard. So let's see what Alysson brings to the table. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, market opportunity. And I'm guessing that a lot of listeners wouldn't be aware of this because I certainly wasn't until a few days ago when I actually looked it up. But Gremio's financial situation is so dire, it is ridiculous. And so I'd imagine this, £8.7 million deal, which in the grand scheme of things, mate, is nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Like Man City are signing Antoine Semenyo for 65. And we've just been through a whole summer of Premier League wingers and forwards changing clubs within the league for 60 to 70 million pounds. This is an £8 million deal. It's a penny in the ocean, really, in terms of modern spending. But I'd imagine that Gremio's finances maybe just thought, well, maybe dictated that this had to happen because they're under a transfer ban for not paying transfer fees because they owe money.
Right.
So it's actually that bad. So market opportunity for Villa, I hope. I do know one coach that has coached against him, more or less, I guess. I did an interview for ESPN in October with the former head of the Palmeiras Academy. His name's Rogerio Ferreira, and he coached Esteval from the age of 14 all the way through to 18. Wow. And a bunch of other players too. Endrick at Real Madrid is another one that he coached for 4 or 5 years. And I shot him a text and said, do you know much about Alysson? And he has some nice things to say, to be fair. I'll just read out the message because that's all I've got for you in terms of a scouting report. It's better than nothing. Yeah. I know him from playing against him, and from the day I saw him, I started paying more attention. He was already training with Gremio first team when he was playing for the under-20s and just dropping down for the important matches for the youth teams. A couple of weeks later, he was in the starting 11 in a very tough situation for Gremio. He's a very strong personality. He has a lot of strength. He's a typical inverted winger with a great 1v1 ability, but has more capacity to finish, and I want to see more soon. We could compare him to Gustavo, that is playing for Brentford, but he is better than him, and I think he'll reach a better level. So there you go. That'll do.
Yeah. It's not bad. It sounds like basically a raw player, that's how you put it, and somebody that we've seen it work with Morgan Rogers. One or two younger players as well have come in and sort of Ozcan and Kostas Nedeljkovic have sort of had one or two opportunities in the case of Kostas Nedeljkovic and gone on loan. But hopefully, this is one that we can work on. And let's see. Half a season. Do you think he'll get much game time?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Tanswell's already tweeted that, a bit of a project. Let's see what Emery thinks, etc., etc. We know that Emery is quite slow with new signings regardless because they need to pick up the basics. One thing I've heard from Rogerio, from Vickery, from anyone that's spoken about Alysson is that he puts a proper defensive shift in. So
Right.
at the very least, he might be able to sort of Evan guess on his way to a few minutes here and there just by being not a liability off the ball, which is it's kind of like the first tick box, isn't it, for Emery? Like, are you going to run back and help Matty Cash? If the answer is no, you're not in the team.
Right.
That's kind of it. And I feel like Donyell Marlon failed that test on the right wing very early on, and he never played there again. So that's something at least. But yeah, Tanswell's already sort of sounded caution on it, hasn't he? So I don't know what to expect there, but I do know that what looks like a relatively tall left-footed right winger with good 1v1 skills is a profile that Villa are screaming out for in the first team. Like it's the Leon Bailey profile that they just don't have, and they could really use something in that area just to give them just something a little different for Emery to call upon in the last 15 minutes of games.
Absolutely, completely agree with that. And it's also quite an unusual signing in the sense, like I feel like Villa don't tend to make these sort of South American signings of relative unknowns. I feel like Forest have done that recent years. Brentford, you mentioned, have done that a couple times. There have been quite a few English sides who've done it. Back in the day, it used to be like Sevilla, didn't it? Benfica, Barcelona would do these sorts of signings. But it's interesting that the Premier League is starting to move that way. But we'll see. We'll see how he adapts.
Yeah, I think the new post-Brexit regulations make it easier to sign these players.
Right.
For English clubs. This was a very difficult situation to buy a player from for English teams in previous years. But when they rewrote the regulations post-Brexit, Brazil and the Brazilian top tier was one of those countries that was elevated in terms of your ability to get a work permit for these players. Its league ranking is very high. So all of a sudden, there's quite a lot more South Americans in the Championship over the last couple of years, if you haven't noticed. And that's they're starting to pick away at that market because they've realised that they'll get the GBE points, as they're called, in the work permit system a lot more easily than they used to. Okay. Like this player. Like, do you remember when Villa tried to sign Brad Guzan and it had to go to like a court of appeal?
Yeah.
And he got like special dispensation because he was a special talent, because he didn't have enough national team caps, and because MLS wasn't a strong enough league in the permit system. So that's all been turned on its head post Brexit, and now Brazil is actually much easier to buy from. So Alysson, like, there's no way he gets a permit under the old situation, old rules.
Yeah.
But now it's easier to get these players.
That's fascinating, and also Brazil as well. It's quite a physical league. I think people tend to just think of Brazil as quite a skillful players. I think back at on their past sides, but it is a very physical place, isn't it? Like, they produce quite strong players generally.
They play pretty hard. The pitches often look quite poor, and they play every 3 days with that. Like Brazilian clubs play an absolutely disgusting amount of football. Like we think 50 games, 55 games is a lot. That's absolute par for the course for a Brazilian team. It's why they have squads of like 35 to 40 players.
Bloody hell.
And the conditioning on the key players is insane because of the amount of football they have to play. So they produce very durable players, and players that peak very early and can withstand quite a lot of physical pressure quite early on. I do have a theory that they might decline a bit faster as a result, but that's another conversation for another day. All that matters there is that Alysson is 19, so he's not declining anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see him, and look, let's hope he can go down the Morgan Rogers route and quickly improve and maybe surprise us. John Duran as well, another player who came in with his stats not screaming that he was going to be amazing, and then lo and behold, he took to the game very, very quickly.
Just on that, you said that Villa don't tend to sign players from South America very often. When was the last one? Was it Juan Pablo Angel was the last one? Like, genuinely.
Angel's the one who's screaming out to me that I can think of. I mean, we've had a fair few South American players, but we always tended to sign them from other sides within Europe.
Douglas Luiz was not straight there.
No.
Carlos Sanchez was in La Liga, right?
Yeah. Ulysses de la Cruz was at Hibernian.
There you go. And obviously Buendia was from Norwich, Martinez, Arsenal. So Diego Carlos, obviously Sevilla. So like, there's been a lot of South Americans coming through, but I genuinely can't remember. Like, maybe those in the comments or those listening will be able to tell us, but I can't remember any since. Well, actually, I'm assuming that Angel did come straight from there, but he did, right?
Angel came from River Plate. Yeah.
There you go. I think that genuinely might be the last one.
Yeah, I remember reading the story about John Gregory getting a motorbike to the airport to fly off to Buenos Aires and watch him. quite a sign he turned out to be in the end. So hopefully Alysson can go that way. So that's Alysson wrapped up, really. We'll see how he develops. But before we go forward into 2026, let's just have a quick word on a very strong 2025. How do you sum it up, Sam?
Goodness me. I mean, we saw a lot more wins than losses. So that's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah.
There aren't that many Villa campaigns in our lifetime where we can say that like pretty comprehensively, especially the top tier anyway. So it's felt incredible to watch the team play so well for so long. And yeah, the way football works these days with so much football on, it's amazing how just 5 months ago can feel like 3 seasons ago. But like it was this year that, you know, I was stood waiting to get into Villa Park with you, actually, getting through the turn, excited to watch Marco Asensio play for Aston. That was this year. Yeah, lots happened. Some incredible results. And you've often referenced it on this podcast when you're talking about Villa's muscle memory. But that PSG game, you know, the home performance and the winning mentality, that and the Bayern game have created, the elevated standards at the club that someone like Asensio, but I think someone like Rashford as well brought, and how the other players that are now still at Villa, I feel like I've really responded to that. You look at players like John McGinn just continuing to move through the gears, and you've got a really reliable set of players here who just know how to defend, know how to attack, know how to grind out wins, and expect to win. They have very high standards for themselves. So it's a pleasure to watch them, really. Before the season started, I did my top 4 predictions for ESPN. I was one of about 10 writers to be asked to do it. I looked at everybody else's, and I was the only one that put Villa in the top 4. And after 5 weeks, that looked like the dumbest call in history. Right. But you know, recently it started to look a bit better. And the process of elimination I went through was obviously Arsenal and Manchester City. I'm absolutely certain will be up there, and I had Liverpool there too. So I had 1 spot left in the top 4. I didn't really have that much faith in Manchester United coming immediately good. I thought Chelsea would collapse physically after the Club World Cup. I thought Newcastle would struggle with the 3.5-day break between intense games of football in the Champions League.
Yep.
I thought Tottenham were going pretty much nowhere. And so almost by process of elimination, I just ended up putting Villa there because although it had been a tough summer, there's something to be said for holding on to really good players and keeping a core of players together. I was looking at all of the summer signings, the big expensive summer signings from last summer, because I started comparing the Semenyo price to the Cunha price and the Mbumo price. Hey, almost none of those deals at 50 million plus have been particularly positive so far. I'm not saying that they're all flops because there's ages to go. But Villa not signing anyone for a lot of money last summer is suddenly not looking that bad when Anthony Elanga is looking like not worth 20 million, let alone rising to 55 so far at least. When Xavi Simons looks really dodgy, really dodgy. When Wissa spent the first half of the campaign injured, Kudus has gone off the boil. You know, suddenly Villa sticking together and just having a nice, closely knit group was actually really positive.
At the start of the season, I think is it Carl Anker? I think said something. What's your wild takes for the season coming up? And one of mine was that actually people are sleeping on Villa, and the squad continuity will actually work in our favour. And that looked a ridiculous call after 5 weeks. I was like, wow, I got that wrong. And then since then, it's like, well, actually, no. I mean, this core group who have had those experiences of Bayern and PSG and even more recent ones, now, beat Man City again at home 3 years in a row. We just beat Arsenal 2-1 with the last kick of the game. Like, these experiences are so crucial to building a winning mentality. And, you look at the calendar year table and look at where Aston Villa came. 3rd place, 76 points after 38 games. I mean, that is... given what Villa were able to spend in the summer, i.e. nothing at all, really, relative to what other clubs were able to spend, including Liverpool and Chelsea, Newcastle, who are all behind Aston Villa. Man United are way behind Aston Villa. It's a special job Unai Emery's doing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I saw a little graphic floating around earlier as well from Transfermarkt, looking at that net spend as well. Managers since they took over. Oh, you've got it.
There it is.
Well, there you go. And Emery down there in 13th place in a net spend of. I hate the fact that it's in euros, but it's Transfermarkt, so fine. 47 million euros. Was that about 42 million pounds net spend?
Roughly that.
It's going to be, yeah. It's remarkable. Some of these figures are a bit artificially high or low. Brighton, for example, just been on a bit of a spree because they've got the Caicedo money in the books and things like that. Obviously, Sunderland, yeah, they did what they did because they got promoted. So fine, still for a team to be the fourth best team over the course of 3 years, and to get, was it 76 points over in a calendar year?
It was
76 points in a calendar year by us. Yeah, it's remarkable stuff. Fair play to Unai, man, and just long live coaching.
Absolutely, it really is a testament to great coaching, and I think that was always what excited me most when we got Unai Emery was my absolute shock at it, because I thought, I'm amazed he's come to Villa at the exact moment that it happened after the Gerrard debacle, and we just looked at quite a low ebb at that point. And for him to come in, I immediately knew, well, we're definitely going to get a lot better. But I just couldn't have anticipated we would be this good, this consistently. And I think personally, it puts pay to the idea that Villa are lucky. That we've been hearing this term a long time, that we overperform each year and others. But when you look at that sort of thing, 38 games, 76 points. When you look at the fact that if you stretch back all the way to 23, 24, we must be around the third or fourth best team in the country. It can't be luck, can it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a multifaceted conversation, that one. I do genuinely believe that Villa have overperformed a little bit this season. And it's not just on the XG. It's like, in simple terms, like Villa have won by 1 goal, like 9 times out of the last 10 fixtures. And generally speaking, you would expect a team that run the margins that fine to fall foul a little bit more than Villa have, like not just win every single one. And it could be that you play another 10 and you lose by a goal every single time, because that's the fine margins of football. But I can't criticize Villa for just being smart enough to be able to see out a game properly. Just the ability to go ahead, get your noses in front, and then manage a game, and then in the last 10 minutes actually defend your box properly and not do silly things like concede late to West Ham, draw 4-4 with Bournemouth, concede to a Christian Romero overhead kick, Newcastle. These are, like, I'm watching all the other teams fall apart in the last 10 to 15 minutes of games, and they can't hold on to their leads. And that is the key difference in points in the table. Aston Villa hold on to their leads and the other teams flop. And that's it. Like, that's it. It's literally, for me, it's as simple as that. It's about seeing out those last 10 minutes, because I watch Villa, I watch Spurs, I watch Man United, I watch Chelsea, and they're all about as good as each other to a point. Yeah. But one team gets it done and the other 3 don't.
Yeah, and we're currently statistically look like we are heavily favoured to get Champions League this year. How do you feel about being in that position?
Yeah, it's like. So there was obviously, when a couple of years ago when Villa secured Champions League football, it was joy, right? It was just absolute joy. This time, obviously, it'll be joy, but will it also just be a bit like, thank God for that? But it'll be joy tinged with relief, won't it? Because I think everybody is very aware of like what this club needs to actually progress and steer clear of these horrible constraints that it's found itself in the center of, right? If they actually want to have a positive summer and they really want to ramp up that revenue, Champions League football is a must. It is a non-negotiable. So the important thing that Villa have done over the first half of the season is they built up quite the lead on most of the other challenges here. So if we just accept that over 38 games, Arsenal and Manchester City are going to have too much in terms of quality and depth, and they may sail away, and we even accept that Liverpool could go on a run and win 10 games and surpass Villa. It could happen. I don't know. Maybe. Right now, there's a 7-point gap and Liverpool haven't looked amazing this season, but it could happen because look at their squad. That leaves probably 2 more spots, of which Villa would occupy 1. There's a 9-point gap to Chelsea and Man United, and the gap only grows when you go down to Newcastle and Tottenham. No wonder Opta have got it at 92% for Villa. 92% chance of qualifying for the top 5, which 6 weeks ago, I was ignoring Opta's projections, but just like look at the gap that Villa have produced. Like Villa don't have to go on any runs here to secure a top 5 place. They don't need to do any of that because the buffer that they have built up with these results means that not only are they potentially able to gamble on strengthening in January, thinking we are gonna get Champions League football, let's spend a bit of money because we're going to get the revenue, but you could also drop a few games here and there that you don't expect to and probably still be okay, whereas all the other teams are right up against the gun already. Like Newcastle can't afford any more slip-ups. You see the relief in those Newcastle players' faces when they they beat Burnley. Yeah, Burnley's the easiest game.
Yeah.
So that's it. Good spot.
I mean, and that's it. I mean, if we are pushing deep into Europe as well, that hopefully means that it doesn't put as much pressure on those Premier League games that might follow a two-legged tie against someone like Lyon, even Nottingham Forest in the Europa League. You know, that a big, tough battle of Britain. And it gives you a bit of leeway going into those weekend games where you think, okay, well, if United and Chelsea keep slipping up, well, it just means hopefully there's not as much stress. Because if they are right on our tail, suddenly that becomes difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah, also, I think just like if you get top 8 in the Europa League and you've got a big buffer on the chasing pack in terms of a top 5 chase, it really just gives you the option, doesn't it? Like it just keeps both avenues alive. It means that you don't necessarily have to prioritize. Like I've been saying all along, like let's see where Villa are in March. That's when I expect them to play their 9th Europa League game of the season. Let's see where they are in March. If they're in the thick of it for the top 5, that could change things. But if you're 9 points clear in March, you can mix and match. You can do what you want. Emery will have the ability to fully tactically plan for all the opponents he has and not necessarily worry about the conditioning or we play this guy here and this guy here. So it will be a great luxury to have, and it will mean that he's just all the more dangerous as a tactician, I think. So yeah, let's see. It would be incredible to get to that place.
And if Villa do get Champions League, how would you like to see the squad improve?
Oh, I mean, maybe Champions League money means that it means that Villa can afford the striker that they clearly are going to need in the next 12 to 18 months. Like, you know, no disrespect to Ollie Watkins, and it's like he's got 4 goal contributions in the last 3 games. He's perked up for sure. But regardless of Watkins, like, you know, Villa sold Duran, loaned in Rashford, and then didn't replace Rashford, and therefore didn't replace Duran long term. So they're going to have to do something, especially since Ollie Watkins has now hit 30 and has played a lot of football and it has apparently been managing knee pain for 18 months. You know, this takes its toll on the body. So, yeah, I think that sort of in the back of our minds, we've all been saying Villa are going to need to enter the striker market soon. That's going to be a disaster because that's a 40 to 50 million pound job.
Yeah,
like at minimum to get a really proven quality player. How are they going to find the money for that when they've got, you know, X, Y, and Z to fix too? But well, Champions League revenue will actually could be the answer to that, of course. So I'm looking at striker for sure. I'm always looking at right back. Always have been forever and ever, and still
about 3 years now. Yeah,
and I say that knowing that and appreciating that Cash is playing the best football of his life. Yeah. But he is only one man. He is just a man. One man, Matty Cash, and Villa need 2 men to be able to play right back properly. They need a Luca Dean, Ian Maatsen situation, and they don't have it. I don't know what the situation here is with Andres Garcia, but I've got this horrible feeling that before he's even really had the chance to prove himself, the ship has kind of sailed a bit.
Yeah.
When are you going to bring him in? When is he going to get his minutes? I don't know. I just can't say. So there's that. And then I feel like Villa are short a creator of some description, a creative presence. Whether that's Emi Buendia's spot in the squad or it's on top of that, I don't know. But again, let's use the reference point of Rashford and Asensio. You're kind of missing those 2 players.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see. I think if you compare it to Arsenal, you look at the way they've built out their defence. I think they might have been the starting gun on English football, going slightly more physical approach, because I think they just gave up trying to outplay City as a City-like team and thought the only way we can beat them is to just have a really, really strong defense, whereby if you have two of your best centre-backs out in Gabriel and Saliba, the players capable of playing in their place who are very versatile are very, very high quality as well. And I just wonder if that's something we might look at, because defensively we do look very light, don't we?
Well, yeah, always have. And there's we're now looking at Villa's squad and saying, well, here's the squad and who can you add? But I think we need to recognise the fact that there's been some links to Barcelona for Pau Torres.
Yeah.
And Villa might still have to sell a player, even if they get Champions League football, and not just because you have to financially say, pull the Morgan Rogers thread for 80 to 100 million, because that will balance the books or whatever. It's Pau Torres will have 2 years left on his deal come the summer, and Barcelona need a left centre back like the desert needs the rain. So, and if Pau Torres says, "Oh, well, I want to go to Barcelona," actually, Villa are going to be mostly powerless in this situation.
Yeah,
you've got to let him do it.
Yeah. Lovely reference to everything but the girl there as well.
So then what happens there? He's the pass master. He's the lieutenant of the system, and he came in against Bologna and against Fulham, and he changed Villa's season. I think we've had yet another fresh slate of evidence to say that Pau Torres is a truly key player to this team. All right, great. Well, you sell him to Barcelona. You've got to go and find another one. You've got to go and find the next Pau Torres. And those are really hard to find. Bastoni won't join Villa.
Yeah, I'm amazed that he never went to Barcelona in the first place, because he is such a Barcelona player. I guess they play a very high line, and a Hansi Flick, maybe that sort of puts him off a little bit with his pace. But he's
I don't know. Torres played a pretty good high line for Villa.
He did, yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's a top player, and hopefully we can keep on to him and many of our best players. But we did mention the Arsenal game. I mean, 11-game winning streak, 17 and 19, won. Absolutely incredible run. But it did end at Arsenal. What were your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I had a bad feeling. I think many of us probably did, right? Because let's put it contextually. So, a month ago, Villa beat Arsenal 2-1 with the performance of their lives. The last kick of the game. It took until the last kick of the game to break them down and break through them. And it took many of those Villa players to put in one of their finest performances of the season so far. It was a heroic effort. And it was at home. There was no Saliba and there was no Gabriel. And it still took all of that to beat them. So what are the chances of Villa then rocking up to the Emirates with Arsenal in full revenge mode, with Saliba, with Gabriel? Okay, no Declan Rice, but it was still a mighty strong 11 with proper depth. I mean, we were looking at the subs benches, weren't we? And we're like, well, if Villa need to change the game, they've got to bring on John McGinn. If Arsenal need a goal, they can bring on Eza. That was the difference. So with that in mind, and the fact that Camara and Cash were suspended, and at halftime Onana went off injured, unfortunately, it was just a step too far for this team. They're just not capable. You have to remember here that while Villa have beaten everyone they've played recently, including Arsenal are the best team in Europe.
Yeah.
Or they have been this season. I firmly believe that. You are talking about going and playing the best team in Europe, almost fully fit, at their place, on a short turnaround from Chelsea, and by half-time, you're down 4 key players because Torres didn't play, Cash and Camara are suspended, Onana's out. It's too much. It's too difficult. So, I mean, look, there is something I will note here, which is that I think a lot of Villa fans were, and this is right, a lot of Villa fans are talking about the Onana-sized hole in midfield in the second half. And that second goal for Zubimendi. Zubimendi was amazing, by the way. It's a world-class performance. But the way he slipped through between the centre-backs and poked home, that looks like an Onana-sized hole, sure. But they changed their pressing scheme in the second half and went fully man-to-man against Villa. Mm-hmm. And Villa just couldn't cope. Yeah. And you mentioned about 10 minutes ago, you're talking about, Arsenal building one of the most physical squads in the Premier League. This was it. This was that strategy manifest. Without Onana to level the playing field, They tacked on fully man-to-man, and suddenly, like, Gyökeres has come to life. He had a great second half. In the first half, he was nearly responsible for an Ollie Watkins goal, but he was brilliant in the second half. Zubimendi was insane. They were just great, man. Like, they were just too good, and I think it was one of those results that it just cemented. They're better. They are, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. In the past, I think if a Villa team had lost that game, it would have been, concerns about, right, well, what does this mean for the mentality? Can we bounce back quickly? But you would feel this team, barring a lot of injuries, should be able to bounce back quickly at Nottingham Forest this weekend.
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, I always assume Villa win at Villa Park. It's just a basic assumption at this point, founded on 2 years of beating almost everyone. So there's that to consider. But yeah, ultimately, Camara comes back in, Cash comes back in. There's not that much to be worried about unless they prove otherwise, because this team is not really to be doubted. It's the fourth best team in the league over the last 3 years.
And we've got Crystal Palace as well, away next week as well, on Wednesday, and then Spurs away in the FA Cup. So the games just, God, the football authorities and the games they force teams to play is incredible, really. But Palace away now, this 3 at the back thing, even against Manchester United recently, we didn't look that comfortable. Wolves, we didn't look that comfortable at home. What is it with a back 3? What's the deal? Do you have any theories, thoughts?
Well, I mean, I guess all I can say here is that so Villa play a super narrow 4-4-2, more or less, off the ball, right? Mm-hmm. And the fullbacks are supposed to tuck in and be really, really close to their centre backs, presumably to create compactness and also to stop those really lethal runs that go between the fullback and the centre back. It's really hard to get a runner in there between Cash and Konsa, or between Torres and whoever the left back is, because the gap is so small. What that creates is a lot of space on the flanks. So often a player can stand on the touchline and receive a switch pass against Villa, and by the time he's brought the ball down and looked up, I mean, Cash will be nowhere near him. But that's by design. Cash isn't supposed to be running out there because he's trying not to open up the lane behind him. So that means that, for example, Chelsea, like Garnacho receives countless switch passes over to the left. And luckily for Villa, Garnacho is more likely to smash it over the bar than anything else over and over again. Yeah. But against a player who isn't trying to do that all the time, and even against like Wolves, with Jackson Chachua, who was just really fast, he created a goal that was disallowed for offside from Strand Larsen. So I think it's an issue with Villa's compactness. I say issue; it's by design. It's not really an issue. It's something that Emery has accepted. There's going to be space somewhere on this pitch, and he chooses it to be wide, right? However you set up, you always determine where you leave space. You can leave space behind you if you would play with a high line. You can leave space wide of you if you play with a compact set. You can leave space in front of you if you play with a low block. Or you can stretch out your lines and be suicidal and leave space in between your lines. It's up to you. And Emery has chosen to leave space wide because he thinks it's probably less likely for you to cross and score on a percentage chance than it is for you to work the ball between the fullback and centre back and then square it, because that is a really dangerous chance. So this is I think this is by design, and it's just something that unfortunately Villa have to live with, because every system has a vice. Every system has kryptonite, and we've seen it against Wolves. We saw it against Man United. Cunha should have scored that header. A couple of dangerous crosses. You can't be perfect. You can't be perfect, but the opponent using wing backs is a surefire ticket to getting that player in that Chachua space to receive, that Garnacho space to receive. And because Cash is not allowed to go out and meet them because he'll leave a gap behind, who has to come back? It has to be McGinn. It has to be Rodgers. It has to be the left mid or the right mid. So then you end up with like a back 6 almost, or a back 5. And when those players come back and do that, it gives you that, it keeps the compactness in place, but it takes 2 players away from the forwards. And then Watkins has got like no one.
Yeah.
He's got just one player to bounce off against maybe 5, maybe 4 opponents, and no wingers. So he looks, so I think, so having played up front a little bit, just at rec level, but like if you take down a long ball and you're in your own half and you're still facing your own goal, you probably just want to palm it off wide to the winger. There's no winger.
Yeah.
He doesn't exist. He stood next to Cash. Like, he's all the way back there. So it creates other issues. And it's just one of those things that the way Emery sets his team up, I can't see a way to change it.
Yeah, I can see some comments coming in. Please do comment if you have anything you'd like to share about what we've been saying and your thoughts on 2026 coming up, what you'd like to see, what your dreams would be. But yes, on the back three thing, it was interesting. I was in the stadium for the Man United Villa game, and Villa basically stuck three players, Rodgers, McGinn and Watkins, on United's back three whenever we were playing out, and Villa were going long a lot more than we usually do. And I wonder if that might be a tactic we use against Crystal Palace, though. You know, Lacroix is a big tool player, isn't he? And I think one issue was that Watkins was getting the ball, but then when he get it, there was no one really near to him. So there's going to have to be somebody who takes that risk and gets a bit closer to him, I think, if we're to play that tactic at Palace.
Is Daniel Munoz still injured? I know they have a game today, obviously.
Yeah.
But like basically Villa are looking potentially like they're going to play Palace without, well, first of all, Ismail Assar is not going to be there.
Thank God.
So there's, that's 6 goals a game wiped off. Yeah. And then Munoz has missed, it's a direct link between Palace and their form dropping off. They've not won any of the last 5. They've lost 4 of their last 5. This is ahead of them playing Fulham today. Munoz has missed all of these games.
Right.
And he is the absolute right wing back flyer. He is he's athletic. His stamina levels are absolutely insane. He's so fast. He's so incisive. He scores really random, helpful goals. He gets into great positions, and he hurts Villa. Him and Sarr are a nightmare, and there is a chance that Villa play Palace without both, and it will help. Yeah, without those two and Eza, it's a different scenario. Of course it is. So maybe that Selhurst Park hoodoo finally comes to an end. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to be there, and hopefully I'll be a lucky charm. We shall see. Well, looking ahead to 2026, Sam, what do you hope to see this year? What's your sort of dream scenario, I guess?
Dream scenario is 3rd and a Europa League win.
Yeah.
I think some people would probably pick the FA Cup, and I think that's very fair. But I just, I don't know, man. Unai in the Europa League just feels right. It just feels right, and I'd like to see it. Actually, maybe I'll rephrase that. The more we don't win the Europa when he's manager, the more I worry the charm is lifted. So if we could just put that right real fast, that'd be great. And in dreams, no, I think I have to say 3rd, because dreams still have to be somewhat realistic, right? Yeah. And I do think that Arsenal and City have just got too much. But I think if Villa ended up besting Liverpool over 38 games, that would be remarkable.
It would.
I am on the fence as to whether that can happen, even with a 7-point buffer as it stands. I'm on the fence. I think if Villa actually slip down to 5th at this rate, it might even feel like a tiny bit of a disappointment, because it feels like 4th should be the floor.
Yeah.
But third and outlasting Liverpool would be a season to be incredibly proud of, along with potentially European success. What about you?
Absolutely. I think getting that trophy would be a huge, the mental barrier passed, because, as I say, this squad have been doing things that Aston Villa in our lifetimes have not been doing. And having those famous, European nights where we have these sort of Liverpool, Anfield style comebacks, or Man United famous European nights comebacks, for Villa to do that against PSG was massive, I thought. And beating Bayern Munich was massive as well, but that was in 2024, obviously. But the next stage is to win that trophy. To then, this team aren't just a group of players who think they can beat anyone, but a team that know they can go the whole way and win something. But then I think also you're right. I think, look, Arsenal and City, we just have to keep looking at them and think, let's just keep aiming for them. The reality is they're probably going to get away just because of the sheer squad depth that they have. Mm-hmm. And Liverpool are probably going to be on our tails at some point, because surely with that squad, their own squad depth, that has to click at some point. And there's no real pressure on them now, because the title's gone for them, really, isn't it? But if Villa can finish above Liverpool, and if we can break the 70-point barrier and push as hard as we can for the 80-point barrier, I think that, again, is another barrier crossed, because we didn't break that 7-point barrier, did we, when we did get top 4 that season?
I want to say it was 68. I think it was 68. It was in that area. Opta's got us expected points 72.83 right now. And your calendar year table was, remind me again, 76?
76, yes.
Yeah. So,
was it there?
yeah. Obviously, Villa are capable of doing this over the course of 38 games. It just needs to be 38 games from the same season. So that would be good. I agree. Breaking 70 points would feel huge, because while Villa had a great campaign that year, obviously at the end there were a couple of losses because everybody was just drained and completely done. But 68, I look back on it now and I look back at previous years, and 68 does look a bit soft. So let's pump that up into the 70s. That would make me feel better.
Yeah, and just push towards the 80s, I think. And looking at other teams who want to get Champions League, Manchester United and Chelsea, any thoughts that they could come running after us? I mean, obviously they'll keep going.
Managerless Chelsea?
Yeah. Can they turn it around, do you think?
Oh, mate. So Chelsea, let's start with Chelsea. Obviously, I've been boring people to tears with this all season, but I've been absolutely beating this drum that Chelsea were never going to be able to compete properly this year because of the Club World Cup.
Agree totally.
So much so that I went out and spoke to 4 sports scientists and conditioning coaches, one guy doing a PhD in conditioning, and a couple of people that work as head of sports science at various football clubs across Europe, and asked them the question for a feature for ESPN, what do you think? And they were all just like, well, yeah, I mean, physically it looks impossible, doesn't it? Based on their experiences, based on how they would set a team up and get them ready for a campaign, there isn't enough time. So, Levi Colwill's ACL tear on the first day of training back after a 2-week break for Chelsea, actually I think it was a 3-week break, looks really unlucky. But also, those things happen when you have a tired mind and a tired body. They happen. A lot of injuries like that happen at the very end of games because people are tired. And lo and behold, I think Colwill's injury happened at the very, very end of the first training session. So from that point, I was like, they're screwed. They're going to crash. I don't know when it will be. I can't tell you if it will be August, December, or April, but it's going to happen. And it happened 3 weeks ago. Yeah. We saw it when they pressed Villa to death for 60 minutes and then dropped like a stone. Couldn't press any further. Could not do it. Physically could not do it. It's got ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
Ripped to shreds on the counter-attack, and Villa turn it around. And I just don't think that changing a manager will do anything for this, because there is no substitute for mental and physical sharpness unless they buy 11 new players who aren't tired. Hey, it's Chelsea.
I wouldn't put it past them this month. Yeah.
Could be onto something there. I just don't see how this is salvageable. I think they're screwed. I might be wrong. But I've had this feeling all summer, all season, that they are screwed. And I think I'm seeing it now. And I don't know how you recover without literally just 6 weeks off, which is not available. You can't just take 6 weeks off. And then United, generally speaking, are they any good? Who knows? Who knows? It's very hard to say. Sometimes they look really good. And then sometimes they really don't. And you get these situations that I've criticized them already for, they were battering West Ham, really, and they should have been 2 or 3 goals up, and then they concede a silly goal in the 80th minute and they draw. Their attacking performance against Bournemouth was excellent, but they conceded 4 goals.
Yeah.
And then they just drew with Wolves. I mean, This is just at home as well. It's just so bad. Rob Edwards' first point is at Old Trafford. There's nothing about this United team and these performances and this manager that is screaming to me, they can do this. They can overhaul this gap and they can be better than Villa over 38 games. I just don't see it. Tottenham are poor, have been very poor. I don't think Thomas Frank's doing a great job, and I think he would have been sacked by now if Daniel Levy was still in charge. So I can't see them hauling Villa in. And Newcastle, I would always be concerned about Newcastle just because of what they're capable of, except for the fact that the points gap is already huge.
Yeah.
It's just so big. And this is the thing that I keep coming back to. As much as you can respect the qualities of these teams and what they might be capable of, they're already 9+ points behind.
Yeah.
And some of them have real problems that are not going to change. Chelsea aren't going to get fitter or sharper. Newcastle aren't. Their schedule will not change.
Yeah.
So it's like a process of elimination. And again, the logical deduction is Villa will be okay. It's almost like Villa can get top 5 by default.
Absolutely. And I guess, in the past, we've obviously seen the pain of Villa falling short, but Villa getting that top 4 under Unai Emery in 23-24 was crucial. It really was such a moment of, we can do this. And they should have the belief they can do it again. And I guess the only thing that would concern me is, because I believe in this team so much that they can keep on winning and get back on winning runs after the Arsenal game as well. Only concern I would have would be injury load. If we just end up getting a load of players missing for a substantial period of time. We're already, Powell's, God only knows what's going on there at the moment. Mings apparently coming back soon. Anana, we'll see what happens with him. That's probably the one thing I think that would worry me a bit with Villa.
Yeah, I really hope that Villa. So I don't know. Obviously, no one really knows what the finances look like, but what we do know is that the UEFA's squad cost rulings and football earnings rules, they work on a calendar year basis, which is super dumb for what it's worth, because it means you can't align all of your financial strategies with PSR, which is, it's just so stupid, but it is what it is. Also, like, there are no UEFA leagues that run calendar year. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
Anyway, it just doesn't make any sense. Anyway, we know that Villa have now got to the end of a calendar year of financial football, and they're in a settlement agreement with UEFA, so they'll be in the clear. How much they're allowed to spend in 2026 depends on how much money you make. It depends on your revenue. How much money do you make? Sort of depends if you finish in the Champions League spots or not. Because if you do finish in the Champions League spots, you know that you're going to make a ton more money. I really hope the club take a gamble here, a calculated gamble, that Villa are going to finish in the top 4 or top 5. They're going to get Champions League football, and they spend some money this winter to make sure that they're building not only for that, but for the years to come as well. And if it doesn't come off, and if Opta are wrong, and it's the 8%, not the 92%, and they don't finish in the top 5, and there's a hell of a collapse, okay, cash in the chip, sell one. Because Villa have got enough assets to cover that. Morgan Rogers being the chief one, but there's a few more too. None of us want any of them to go, but they are there. And I think it's worth the gamble. I think it's well worth stepping on the pedal here, because I think Villa are going to finish in the Champions League places.
Yeah,
but there is something that could derail them, and it's a proper injury crush, and you can mitigate that by picking up 2 or 3 players, just like you did last year with Rashford and with Asensio and with Disasi and with Marlon.
I'd be very happy to see another defender come in, particularly a versatile one, which is what Arsenal have done. Timber can do centre back, left back, right back. Calafiori centre back, left back. Ben White right back, centre back. Having players like that really, really helps. I think, particularly what we're seeing with Villa right now, we're having to play Lindelof a lot as a left centre back when he naturally tends to be more on the right. But
yeah, he's done okay. He did really well actually until Arsenal, and then he was not good. But it is what it is. He's gone from not playing at all to playing every 3 days for 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
And all things considered, he's done a brilliant job. But like Tyrone Mings and Torres being out at the same time kills. Yeah, it's really hard.
And hopefully they're both back soon enough. Doesn't sound like it's long-term injuries, so we shall see. Now, a few comments have come in, and I'm going to get to a few of those now. Please do comment if you have any thoughts on what we've just said. Please like, please subscribe. Right, Black Country Villain, good afternoon all. UTV, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Black Country Villain, as well. And to Shane as well. You're saying Happy New Year, Frankie, and your guest, Sam. Of course, salut, c'est moi, says bon année, c'est moi. Steve, I know there's a big gap, but you're talking about Aston Villa FC. Don't get too confident. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, fair point.
We've all seen it, haven't we? That Martin O'Neill era left a scar, didn't it?
Do you know why I make the Moscow reference to people, and they don't? I forget that not everyone lives in a world where Martin O'Neill ruins their late teens. And I say things like, "Oh, I could just get to March, and could be kids on the plane to Moscow," and people look at me like I've gone mental, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, people don't understand what that means."
Yeah, exactly. It's God, that was an experience, wasn't it? He literally threw it. He threw it, and backfired completely. And that, what was it, 2 or 3 years of getting close and falling short, and
somehow finishing below Everton every time. Yeah.
Wow.
We're going to be 4th. We're 6th.
Yeah.
Check the table. Is that right?
Yeah. It was like 6th as well. John Gregory as well. That year we were top of the league until like January, and then ended up in 6th that season as well. I think Unai Emery getting 4th that season, that in his first full season, was just massive. It really was. It just changes your mentality. Once you've been there once, surely you can go and do it again. Black Country Villain, we need a couple more. At least we have Cash and Kamara back for Saturday. Yeah, agreed. And we mentioned Cash, and he is playing the best football of his career, isn't he? He's really stepped up this season.
Cash is playing the best football of his career. Rodgers is playing the best football of his career. Konsa might be. It's always tough to say because Konsa's been so good for so long, but Konsa might also, he has been so good this year.
Yeah, he has.
So, and Onana's never looked better in a Villa shirt either. So there's a lot of players that we could talk about in those terms. But Cash, I think, is the one that's made the biggest leap since last year. And I say that as someone who's never been fully and totally convinced by Cash, particularly on the ball in those tight spots and in terms of moving, recycling possession. I've always asked for a little bit more. Never really had an issue with the defensive work, but on the ball I've wanted more. But he's really getting there, and so he's had a phenomenal season. And Cash and Kamara back in, huge, absolutely huge. Particularly Kamara, obviously, usually the best player.
Massive player, isn't he? But for Cash to bounce back from the mistake he made at Old Trafford last season, again, it shows the mentality of him as an individual, the general vibe of this squad. No blame culture. They all get on and they improve. And yeah, we were there that day for that game, the Old Trafford. We ate a lot of nachos that day to get over it. But hopefully celebratory nachos at the end of this season. Black Country Villain, please smash the likes. Yes, please do. Please do. And he also mentions that Blues lost 3-0 at Watford. So, haven't seen that result, but that looks like their manager probably is on his way. Michael Carrick, the manager most linked to go there. Ryan McKeown, one of my favourite people to follow on Twitter. Fantastic Twitter. Writes so many great in-depth pieces on the way Villa play. And if you're on Twitter, I strongly recommend finding Ryan on there. And also contributes to the UTV podcast as well, I believe. Great to see you, Ryan. Happy New Year to you as well, mate. We'll have to get you on here one of these days. Kutzendorf, I hope we can bounce back against Forest. I think we have a good mentality even after that loss, as we still pushed and got a goal at the end. Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it?
Yeah, that was really weird. So basically, Villa had about 0.6 XG in 90 minutes. And then 2.1 XG or something in added time. We made this big deal out of Villa's XG against Arsenal was the highest that Arsenal have recorded in terms of XG against all season long. Mm-hmm. It was 2.1 at Villa Park, and it was the most XG they'd conceded all season long. Somehow, the other night, Villa beat their own record. With 2.5 XG, and almost all of it came in the space of 8 minutes. Thanks to McGinn missing on the line and Watkins scoring on the line, 2 absolutely humongous chances. It just made me chuckle at the end because obviously Villa were significantly better in performance-wise a month ago. Yeah, but 2.5 XG on the night. In 8 minutes, it did make me laugh. And also maybe for those that are clinging solely to XG, just solely to XG, makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's I agree entirely. There's obviously a lot of drama online around the XG and all that sort of stuff at the moment. But look, they'll keep defining it. We'll keep going. Kutzendorf again. I've never seen us win a trophy in my life, so winning the Europa League would be just amazing. That really would be a very, very special trophy for Aston Villa to win, wouldn't it?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, it was particularly with the Emery factor, and just also maybe because the good times under Emery have been very closely associated with Europe. Yeah, I can picture and I can hear Unai Emery saying the word Europe because he says it so often, mostly to stop people talking about the Champions League as this all or nothing, thing. He's just trying to stress to everyone that Europe is good. European campaigns are good. Don't worry about which competition it's in. But I can hear him saying the word. He's obviously a master at it. 2 brilliant campaigns so far in terms of the Conference League, getting to the semi-finals, and obviously quarterfinals, PSG narrow lost Champions League. Villa have been great in Europe under Emery. Villa have returned to Europe under Emery. So it is a hallmark of his reign. So it does just feel right. The hallmark of Emery has not been great in domestic cups. It's been Thursdays have been wicked, haven't they? Wednesdays have been really, really good. So that's why I think it just suits Villa a little bit better. It just meshes with it in my mind a bit better.
Yeah, looking through it, I think a Battle of Britain with Nottingham Forest over 2 legs would be a, very energy sapping and emotion sapping affair. Probably one I'd want to avoid. But then Porto, Roma, Lyon, are they the top 3? Would you say?
I'm not looking at the table, but Porto most certainly. I mean, I've been staring at Midtjylland in the table for like months, and bear in mind they beat Forest, albeit it was Forest under Ange. But there are like, I know you're one to hand out the mild criticisms of the high end Stoke at various teams, Tottenham, Newcastle. Well, wait till you see FC Midtjylland. They're the low end Stoke.
Oh, okay.
It's like all of their players can throw the ball 50 meters.
Right.
Okay. It is outrageous watching them play. It would not be fun. It would not be fun. You want Tyrone Mings on the corner of the 6-yard box and 2 goalkeepers in for that one.
Okay, right.
I think, look, Betis are really good. They're a really strong team. So I think I'd go Porto, Betis, and Forest. Yeah, which leaves out the 2 teams above Aston Villa in the table right now. But I think those would be my 3. There's probably 5 or 6 really strong teams.
Yeah, it's good. It's exciting stuff. I just can't wait to see how Villa do in the Europa League and go on this season. More special memories to come, I'm sure. John, I was born in 1958, so the FA Cup is the only thing I've seen us not win. The FA Cup would be very, very special. And I think for a lot of us, we've seen 2 terrible finals in 2000 and 2015. So it'd be nice to put that right. And again, it's just a trophy that I think if Arsenal win it or Liverpool or City, it doesn't mean a lot to them. But for Villa, it's a massive, massive moment, isn't it?
Yes, it would be. Yeah, I don't remember much of the 2000 final. I remember the Arsenal game. I was there. It was horrible.
One of the worst.
Sat next to. I was in the press box. I sat next to James McNicholas of the Athletic Gunner blog. For those maybe that have seen him on Twitter, bless him. He was very nice to me, in like a very like. Not condescending, not patronizing. He was just very conscientious. He really wanted to celebrate the fact that it'll be like, yes, like fist pump or whatever, like that Arsenal were going to win this trophy. And he was sat right next to me. My head was just on the desk. He just didn't want to go too hard because it felt so horrible to do it in my face. Bless him. He should have just enjoyed himself. Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, it was tough. I was at the 2000 final, and whilst the Arsenal game was an absolute destruction, the Chelsea game was just such a damp squib. Nothing happened all game, and even their goals were scrappy and rubbish. But it's a different Villa now. So hopefully we can, get on and do something special. Elliot Stevens, Happy New Year, lads. Really enjoying listening to Sam, knowledgeable chap. Cheers. Would you believe that? That's a very nice compliment. He's the opposite to Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, who knows nothing. Sam seems to know bloody everything. It's great stuff to have him on here. We love it.
Just going to screenshot that and send it to my dad.
Yeah. So, the question is, will he actually get a place in the starting 11 this season? I guess that's in reference to Alysson.
Quite possibly. I mean, I would be pretty doubtful, but I don't know because I haven't seen him play very much, right? Like I'm working off what a coach has told me, what Tim Vickery has said, and a highlight reel. But we're also working on the basis that we know he's had 1 professional season in Brazil. He scored 1 goal, I think. It was a tough season for his club. He hasn't cost that much money. We haven't bought everyone else off with a stick to buy him. And none of this is to bring the guy down, but I think a lot of it is to say, it's not Estevao, is he? So let's take it with a pinch of salt, give him some time to develop and let Emery size him up properly in training, and then we'll see. I stand by the fact that he is a profile that Villa badly need. However, based on what I've heard, I'm doubtful that he's up to speed in terms of Premier League quality just yet. But we'll see.
And he's the first signing under Roberto Alaba, who obviously replaced Monchi as sporting director. And the vibes I have got from those at the club is that he's very well liked. So we shall see. Hopefully that's a good start, isn't it? He's not walked in and done what Newcastle's Paul Mitchell did, was it? They were immediately alienated Eddie Howe, which is
yeah. I've spoken to a few people that have worked for Roberto, and everyone speaks so highly of him.
right.
One person has just said that he's incredibly knowledgeable and very kind in terms of working with the staff and liaising with the team. Another person said he has an aura, and you could just feel it coming off him when he walks around the office. So a seriously revered person in this space. And the scouts and analysts that I've spoken to that have worked with him have got nothing but wonderful things to say about him. And this is the kind of deal, like, I think I said this to you a couple of months ago, but this is the kind of deal that, like, 3 years ago, if Real Sociedad had done this, I'd have been like, that's classic Real Sociedad.
Yeah, right,
like,
right.
That's so Real Sociedad to buy this player for this price at this point. He's either going to not quite make it, or he's going to be sold on for 40 million euros. I wonder which one it will be. And now Villa are making those moves because they have Roberto Alaba, and the transfer direction is going to be different.
Yeah. It's exciting stuff, and I can't wait to see what he follows up on, and particularly this summer, if there's a decent chunk of money to spend, hopefully a lot more than there was last summer, then we'll see where we go from there. Close off, even just a couple of extra players who can at least serve as good squad players would make us such a difference. It really would, wouldn't it?
Just loans, yeah. Like, I keep sending you like Romano's tweets in WhatsApp and being like, "Can we borrow him?
Yeah,
Like, he's available. We borrow him.
Omar Marmouche.
We have him. Is he free? Can we have him? Joao Cancelo was the one yesterday. Cancelo wants to leave Al Hilal, and I'm like, yeah, let's go. Play him anywhere. The guy's unbelievable. I wonder if there might be like a loan from Saudi ahead of the World Cup that might come up.
Oh yeah,
because there's a few, isn't there? Like, Ruben Neves apparently wants to leave in the summer. Cancelo wants to leave this month. They're just Al Hilal players, but obviously there's like 6 other clubs with a bunch of other players. I just wonder, like, ahead of the Euros, when all of those Saudi players came in, and they actually started the tournament really, really well, and everyone was like, "Wow, these Saudi players are super fit." And then by week 3, game 3, they were all like dead, and like because the intensity of the tournament and the intensity of the play, they were not used to it on a regular basis. So they came in super fresh and then just like physically crashed. And I remember Sergej Milinkovic-Savic was insane against England, and then by the third game was like gone, flogged.
Right.
Kante like bomb off a cliff. It was, and I just wondered if, like, will these players look at that and think, I need 6 months of European conditioning ahead of this World Cup? Mm-hmm. And could a club like Villa be the lucky recipient of a player that's just pushing for that? I don't know. We'll see.
Ivan Toney, he might be looking for somewhere in England, maybe.
So I mentioned this the other day, actually, on the Sky Sports Transfer podcast. It was on with Henry Winter. And Henry Winter said something that I have never, ever in my life considered, but it is a very fair point, because I know this to be true. If an English person, and I don't know if this applies to other countries or what, if it's just a regulation between England and Saudi Arabia, if an English person goes to Saudi Arabia to work and obviously gets all that lovely tax-free money, if they leave or go back within 2 years, they don't get the tax-free.
Wow. Right.
So I've got a couple of friends who have gone out and worked there, and this is true. So Tony, I would assume and Henry Winter was positing that Tony can't come back before 2 years, which obviously would be this summer coming, right?
Mm.
He'd be gone for 2 years, and if not, he'd have to pay tax on all his wages.
Right. Okay.
And I'm like, oh, that's something I've never considered before when I've been thinking about transfers, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it was Jordan Henderson, wasn't it? Who didn't? I don't think he even got his earnings from his 3 to 4 months out there before he went back to Ajax. Mark Petsford,
and then he played against Villa and we booed him.
Yeah, amazing. Mark Petsford, Happy New Year! Please, Villa win a trophy this year. Absolutely, I think we'd all love to see that. Black Country villain also concurs. John says exactly, beat Forest and Palace, a new run until May. And yeah, I think January, if you look at the fixtures, it's Forest at home, on the back of a long run of games, and then you've got Crystal Palace away midweek, then Spurs away at the FA Cup, and then it just again. There's a couple more games. You've got Fenerbahce away and Newcastle away within 3 days of each other towards the end of this month. So,
ouch.
Yeah, but I then think if you look beyond this month, where I still expect us obviously to pick up points, February onwards looks all right. So
yeah, fixtures do kind of, I guess, ease up a little bit. Although I will say, like, without wanting to sound like a complete cliche, the Premier League is hard, right? It's really hard, and there is no such thing as that easy game unless you're playing. I mean, I think like Burnley at home, and for regular teams, that aren't rivals with them, like Wolves, have been a bit of a soft touch or whatever. But realistically speaking, there's 18 teams here that are really quite competitive. So it's hard to pick out those like easy games. And I was just looking to see who Newcastle might be playing before they play Villa. So when have Villa got Newcastle? What's the date?
I think it's like 20th or something. 20.
Newcastle is the 25th. So who have they got? Right. Who have they got just before PSV? Oh, boo! That's a shame because the week that like 3 days later they've got PSG away. That would have been nice to have just swap those. Just different. Yeah. Never mind.
But as we see, they don't seem to cope well with midweek to no matter who they're playing, and it's just the intensity of the way they play. I said this 2 years ago, and I repeated it at the start of the season. I just wasn't sure how Newcastle were going to cope with that, but maybe as the season progresses, maybe they get more used to it and sort of start to fly a bit better than they have at the start of this season. We'll see. But hopefully that is another hoodoo we can aim to end away there, but obviously difficult 3 days after going to Istanbul. There's Happy New Year, Frankie. Watch all your podcasts, all Villa fans. Keep the faith. We will prevail. Happy New Year, every Villa fan as well. That's lovely to hear. Thank you very much. Dennis, Black Country Villa, we have the best fans. Hopefully our great manager will reward us with the Europa League title. Of course, John, Sam is a football guru. Great signing, Frankie. Yeah, I've done this is my Alabi moment. This is Monchi signing Morgan Rogers. And it's look at that. We've got the Morgan Rogers of football podcasters. And as I say, I listen to Sam a lot on the Ranks FC podcast, The Truth with Dougie Critchley. Fantastic podcast, and I just love reading and watching everything Sam does. Black Country, Frankie, please could you do a football phone in? Yeah, sure. I'll work out the technicalities of how you actually do that. I think a few other podcasts do it as well, but I'm very much a Luddite when it comes to this sort of stuff, so I will try and work that out. But yes, thank you everybody so much for all of that. Sam, thank you so much for talking. This has been absolutely brilliant chat. As I say, we literally chat all day on WhatsApp as well, but I could literally chat all day in person as well on these podcasts. Where can people find you and your work online?
Yeah, so all my written stuff is for ESPN. So I do features. I did actually write one about Villa the other week, which is quite rare. And I was the right person to do it, of course. However, it did not make it any more enjoyable because trying to find the right balance when writing about Villa for a major news outlet it can be quite tricky. But in the end, I kind of got there. But generally, I cover world football, European football, Champions League stuff, all sorts. I'm sure if you like football, you'll be interested. I've just done a feature on innovations in the game based on a conference I went to in November where all these people stood on the stage and told me, here's a player dashboard, here's how we recruit, here's the Raiola agency and their projection and their modelling and their player ratings, and here's Edin Terzic and how he's using data in his time off. It was quite interesting. So it's all in the piece if you're interested. Otherwise, I'll be on the Sky Sports Transfer podcast all of January. Mm-hmm. And that's about it, other than The Truth every week, as you've already talked about.
Excellent. And we'll have to keep calling you up as the Morgan Rogers. We'll have to get you starting every game at all Villa.
I'm not keen on that comp. I don't consider myself a £100 million attacker.
No.
I consider myself I consider myself a washed box to box midfielder. So if you can find one it used to be pretty good, but it's 35 now, and weighed himself this morning on the post-Christmas haul and is 2.5 kilos overweight, then let me know what the comp is.
Right, okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Sam, for coming on. It's been absolutely brilliant, and thank you to everybody who's contributed and listened, and please do subscribe, but thank you. Happy New Year to everybody, especially to all Aston Villa fans. Until next time, up the mighty Villa.